I'm 22 years old. I was supposed to be graduating next month, and I've just been told they want to put me on the list for a heart transplant. Hi everyone, welcome to part 5 of my journey from heart failure to heart transplant. In this video, I'll talk about my heart transplant pre-assessment at the Freeman Hospital in Newcastle. I'll talk about the tests they did to assess my heart function and determine whether or not I should be listed for a heart transplant. In a nutshell, what was supposed to be a 2-day assessment turned into a 3-month-long hospital stay, during which I received a meal. I knew this was going to be emotional. March, I was a normal 22-year-old, living a normal university life. In terms of the 4 pillars of heart failure medication, I was on 3 of the 4 pillars or groups of heart failure medication, and my heart condition was stable. April, I came home from university to revise for my final year exams, and within 2 weeks I experienced an acute heart failure episode. I struggled to breathe at rest, had extreme fatigue, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, loss of appetite, fluid accumulation in legs, feet, ankles. I was essentially a balloon. And I could not walk 10 steps without feeling the need to fall down in exhaustion. I went from one A&E to the next and was eventually admitted into Leeds General Infirmary, where I was told that my heart function dropped to 10 to 15% and that I would need to have an ICD fitted and be referred to Newcastle for a heart transplant assessment. 23rd of May, I had my transvenous ICD fitted. It was a really fun experience, highly recommended, 10 out of 10. Unfortunately, within a couple of days, my ICD started to show signs of infection. The infection honestly couldn't come at a better time because 31st of May, my family and I were supposed to travel up to Newcastle for my pre-assessment on the 1st and 2nd of June. So I was beyond shattered because the infection just drained the life out of me. Not a single cell in my body wanted to travel 3.5, which turned into 5 hours, just to have a few more tests done and speak to yet another doctor about my severely damaged heart. I know it's broken, but I thought to myself, Maureen, it's just a 2-day assessment. You're just gonna go have a chat with someone who's really expert in this advanced heart failure stuff. They'll tell you the plan and then you'll come home. I left home to travel up to Newcastle for just a 2-day assessment, not knowing that the next time I was going to walk through my front door was going to be with a new heart. Yeah. The drive up to Newcastle was a blur. I slept basically the whole 5 hours until we reached our hotel. And the only time I woke up was to tell my dad to stop at the next services because I needed to pee. That's because I was on all 4 pillars of heart failure medication by this point. And a lot of them contribute to increased urination, like furosemide, dapagliflozin, and spironolactone. Now, it was only when we arrived at the hotel when I started to feel worse. Short and sweet, I vomited. Despite all of this, I made it through the night. I think the one thing I kept telling myself was it's just a couple of hours, and then first thing in the morning you're going to be seeing their expert heart failure team and they will know what to do. We did keep the team informed, by the way. Like, me coming in with an ICD infection wasn't like a big shock to them. But ultimately they couldn't admit me a day earlier even though I was in Newcastle. Bed space and all that jazz. I would have had to go via the A&E and Ugh, no thanks. But A&E was the next option if things got worse throughout the night. So it's the day of my heart transplant pre-assessment and I feel rubbish. I made it through the night, but I vomited again in the morning. Once we arrived at the Freeman, my dad got me a wheelchair and we all went up to the ward that I was going to be admitted into. That's when I met the transplant team and was introduced to my transplant coordinator. Now this person will be with you for your entire transplant journey. From being told you need a new heart to going into theatre for your transplant operation. Over the course of the 2 days of my pre-assessment, I had an ECG, chest x-ray, echocardiogram, exercise test, right heart catheterization, and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of bloods. Now, out of all of these tests, the only test that I was unfamiliar with was the right heart catheterization test procedure thing. Honestly, you have nothing to worry about. If you're a heart failure patient and you have been a heart failure patient for some time, chances are you're more than likely to have had a lot of those tests that they do for the pre-assessment. All of these tests are to determine how bad your heart is and how good you are. Ultimately, the doctor and their team will use all of these tests to make a judgment on how poorly functioning your heart is, whether or not you'll be able to survive a transplant operation, which is a huge operation and a huge stress on the body, and ultimately where in the list you should be placed. Or if you're eligible for like an LVAD, left ventricular assist device, then, getting that fitted, or when that should be fitted. I was not eligible for an LVAD. So the left ventricular assist device basically helps the left ventricle pump. But in order to have an LVAD, the right side of your heart has to be somewhat good. And mine wasn't. Both of my left and right sides were rubbish. So yeah, I wasn't eligible for an LVAD. After all the tests were completed, the doctor came in with his team and told me and my family, your heart function is extremely poor. Your right side isn't able to pump, nor is the left. We need to get rid of your infected ICD and put a new one in on the other side. You're an excellent candidate for a heart transplant. And finally, you will be put on the routine list for a heart transplant, and we will review you very, very closely to see if anything changes. I'm 22 years old at the time. Obviously, this is a huge shock to me. I'm so young and I've been told that I need a new heart. It was only when the doctor and his team left the room when I started to cry. This was my first time crying in Newcastle. I didn't even cry in the hotel room. I didn't even cry when I was having these tests done. First time I cried was when he told me that I needed a new heart. Literally, nothing in life is going to prepare you for this. For being told that your heart is doing so rubbish and that at some point you will need a heart transplant. During this pre-assessment, you'll be put on one of 3 lists. The routine list, the urgent list, or the super urgent list. Routine list, what it means is that you can go home because you don't need to be in the hospital. So he was like, we'll just put this ICD in and we'll monitor you very, very, very closely. But I was able to go home on the routine list.
We're gonna get out of here, Buzz!
With the urgent list, you have to be in the hospital on IV drips that will support your heart and help it pump better. Super urgent from what I understand. You've got to be in a very critical condition. You might be in ICU on ventilators and stuff like that. You're highly prioritised on the super urgent list. 2nd of June, that's when I was told that they would like to put me on the routine list for a heart transplant. But it was only on the 6th of June when I actually signed the consent form. Obviously, they need your consent to do a heart transplant because it's a very, very, very high risk procedure. Operation, surgery. Heart transplant is a huge thing to deal with. Like, your ribs are going to be opened, your ribs are going to be broken, heart is going to be detached. It's a big, intense procedure.
And that's why they need your consent. Let's move on.
In terms of the heart that could potentially be offered to you, another thing you have to sign is if it's from a particular person, would you tick that box? Oh, I would accept a heart from an older donor. I would accept a heart from somebody who is engaged in high drug-related activities, stuff like that. Again, I will talk about this in more detail in a later video because I need to properly read the form. Oh yeah. 7th of June, I had my ICD removed. It felt great to have that weight off my shoulders. No pun intended, it's not even shoulder, it's like upper chest. It was quite an easy thing to remove because it had only been in my body for 2 weeks. I got it fitted on the 23rd. It literally only been 2 weeks. I felt kind of bad for the doctor who fitted my ICD. If you remember in the previous video, like, he was struggling to even fit in and now it's just been removed and thrown in the bin because it can't be used again. And they are expensive. They're very expensive. I'm so glad we don't have to pay for like all of this, but in the days that followed, my health got so much worse. Even though the infection was settling, physically I just started to feel worse, and then I started to have nausea and vomiting again because my heart failure was getting worse. 15th of June, I was shifted to a cubicle. I requested it because I was going to the toilet to vomit every other hour, it felt like, and I just felt like that wasn't really hygienic, good for other patients because I'm staying with like 5 other patients. So I was just trying to be considerate and I just said, please, if you have a spare cubicle, can I just go so I can vomit in peace and I don't have to worry about like waiting for the toilet to be free and then I'm just gonna go and vomit. When I say vomit, it wasn't solid vomit because I wasn't eating anything. Heart failure, loss of appetite. I wasn't eating anything. I was just taking like 1 or 2 bites of a jammy dodger, like a mini jammy dodger, I remember. And I just had no appetite at all. 16th of June was really, really difficult because I knew I was feeling bad. The doctor and his team came in when they finished having their like MDT, meeting with all the other healthcare professionals and the other doctors and the staff. And the doctor was basically like, we've decided to put you on the urgent list because your bloods came back and it doesn't look good. Essentially, the heart failure was affecting my other organs, so my kidneys were failing and my liver was failing too. The doctor said, we would like to move you to the ICU just to keep a closer eye on you because here in this ward you don't get that one-to-one support because obviously there's not a nurse watching you 24/7, but in ICU you're literally being watched and monitored and observed 24/7. So he said, we want to take you to ICU and we need to consider starting you on some kind of dialysis for your kidneys. This time, instead of waiting for the doctor and his team to leave, I ended up crying in front of them because I couldn't hold it in. I don't really have much memory after that. I just remember feeling so like heartbroken. Literally, things just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Like there is no good in sight. And then the doctor was just like, I'll come back and see you when you've been shifted to ICU. I do have to commend the doctor for the way he spoke about ICU, because the thing is, I feel like a lot of people, when you hear the word ICU or ITU, intensive care unit, you genuinely just think the worst of the worst of the worst. But he was really like calm about it, and he was like, we just want to keep a closer eye on you. And then my family were also so supportive. They weren't like crying and stuff. They were really strong. I don't know how. They were so strong. Like, I don't know what my parents were like outside of my room, but in front of me, they didn't shed a tear. They kept me motivated. They kept my faith strong. I just want to say, like, family, if they're strong in front of you, they make the world of a difference. Like, if my family broke down in front of me, I would also break down, and it would have been harder for me to deal with everything. So your support network plays such a big role in your health and just keeping you positive and optimistic even though things look. When I got to ICU, obviously this is like 16th of June in the UK, that's quite hot. All of a sudden, my doctor comes in, you know, the same doctor that I've been seeing my whole time in the Freeman. He's coming in with an ice cream or an ice lolly. Instantly, I just felt at ease. I was like, oh, he's having an ice lolly. I can calm down now. Because I thought ICU is this environment where, like, you're not supposed to eat and drink and bring foods in and stuff like that. I don't know why. But I saw my doctor having an ice lolly and I'm thinking, oh, so it's not actually that serious of an environment. I don't think people understand, but when a doctor is calm around you, you will instantly calm down because they're calm. But if they're stressed, then you're also going to be stressed, obviously. But yeah, it was just so nice to see. The very next day, 17th of June, I received an offer of a hat and I have my transplant. In the next video, I will talk about everything that happened on that day when I got told there's an offer of a hat for you. I will not talk about it in this video because the emotions that come with it are completely different. And then obviously you have to acknowledge the fact that someone has actually left this world behind and they have given you this gift to stay alive. So that will be for the next video. Thank you for listening, and I hope this video helped.